Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Journey Church Online. I am so glad that you're here. Let me give you a couple of announcements to get you all in the right place together. First, there's the Journey Church app, and you can download it by going to the App Store or Google Play, searching for the Journey Church VA. That's where we are. We're in Virginia. And you'll find all kinds of stuff there. Notes for today, announcements for today, a way to connect with us using the online journey card, ways that you can find out about how to sign up. Everything you want to know, you can link there. Even our old messages and media. So there's a Spotify account so you can hear the music that we use to lead worship with. Looking forward to hanging out with you guys today. Check that out. And there are links to generational ministry for our Catalyst ministry and to our JC Kids ministry so that you can invest in the lives of your kids. Having said all that, this is going to be an amazing day because we're completing our message series called Bigger Than I Thought. God is bigger than we think. He's bigger than our fear. He's bigger than our pain. He's bigger than our doubts. He's bigger than our failure. So here's what I want to ask you to start thinking about this, because the truth is we don't like to talk about our deep failure because it comes with pain and shame. But just go back to some things that might be a little safer to talk about, where failure was something you experienced when you were young. Like maybe you got your first bad grade in school. Maybe you played on team sports and you remember losing as a team together, or you lost a game with a friend. And talk about that and how you felt like, wow, I really didn't like that at all, and I can't believe that I failed this thing. But everybody, let's not be unfair. Everybody has some failures. Everybody has some failures. The problem is that we can let our failures identify us. And it doesn't have to be that way. That's what we're going to talk about today. Before we go there, before we even think about that, let's spend time thinking about the one who loves us more than any of our stuff. Let's think about the one who lived and died and rose and lives and reigns. His name is Jesus. We're going to sing some songs that help us remember who God is, who Jesus is, who the Spirit is. And I hope you'll join us. So whether you're at home, if you're in your PJs, it doesn't matter. No matter where you are, don't be afraid to sing, because singing is a physical thing we can do to help us connect with a God who loves us. Don't be afraid to stand. Don't be afraid to lift your hand. Don't be afraid, because the God of all creation is bigger than your fears. I hope you'll worship with us.
Hold me now in the hands that created the heavens. Find me now where the grace runs as deep as your scars. You pull me from the clay, lift me on a rock, call me by your name, made my whole heart again, lifted up, and my knees know it's all for you. stand, I can surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, but you love my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds me now. Healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. Death has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds that ground. Your grace holds me now. 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 Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, but you love my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds me now. Healed and forgiven. Look where my chains are now. Death has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds that ground. Your grace holds me now. Your grace holds me now. Your grace holds me now. Your grace holds me now.
Well, good morning. I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be a great day. I'm looking forward to sharing with you this powerful message that I really am affected by. You see, we're in the last message of the series we're in called Bigger Than I Thought. And the whole idea is this, is that God's beauty radiates through all of our lives in the good times and the bad times. It's just really hard for us to see when it's the bad times. And so, listen, if you don't get anything else from today's message, here's what I want you to get. Look, God's beauty radiates through all the time, and God doesn't just want to bless you, He wants to shape you. God doesn't just want to bless you, He wants to shape you. And He does it using the things that seem bad. He does it using our fear. He can shape us using our pain. He can develop us when we have doubt. All of these for me come together in this one thing that I desperately want to avoid, that I have all of my life. It's failure. You know, it's funny too, because I have a hero named Brooks Robinson. He was a third baseman. I didn't know much about baseball at all, but I knew this guy was really good. He's one of the greatest third basemen of all time in baseball. And baseball's a funny sport because failure has a whole different sort of definition. In fact, a friend of mine gave me the signed baseball. This is a treasure in my home that Brooks Robinson signed. Is that not the best thing ever? I'm really grateful for that friend sharing that treasure with me. But he failed at batting 70% of the time. He failed. But his failure didn't define him. It's interesting. Now, I helped coach a middle school team one time on their wrestling team. And I recruited this one kid from my student ministry who was a very good athlete. He was a tremendous athlete. And he worked out, he trained, he practiced, he learned technique. And when he wrestled his first match, he did a great job. And he lost. And I'll never forget how that impacted him. It got all the way down to his soul. You see, when we fail, it burrows down into our soul. And it was just so hard for him, especially for a young teenage guy. This failure there's no team to blame it on. It's just you when you lose a wrestling match. It was probably one of the most life-shaping events of his life. But it doesn't have to identify him. In fact, your failures that you're carrying don't identify you. Not even just your failures, but listen, what we do and what has happened to us, it can shape us, but it doesn't have to define us. God defines us. The God of the universe who made you, He defines you. And the reason that we can take our failures and surrender them to God and know that we're going to be okay is because God is bigger than my failures. Fathers, we talk through and understand the story of a man who felt like he had ultimately failed as a friend, as a follower, as a trustworthy companion. He thought he'd failed. God, let us see how you took this man and through who you are, you shaped him into something wonderful, someone wonderful. Lord, help us to see that because you can shape us. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. There was a man named Simon. He lived when Jesus lived, and he was a fisherman. Maybe he was a good fisherman. It's hard to say. It doesn't matter. Simon was a fisherman. Simon was a fisherman near the place where Jesus walked around teaching. Jesus was an itinerant preacher. And one day, Jesus comes by where Simon is fishing. Simon had been out fishing all night long. He's gotten nothing. And as he's coming to shore to kind of quit for the night, it's morning, Jesus asks him to borrow his boat so that he can kind of pull out away from shore and talk to a crowd. And Simon helps him because he respected this itinerant preacher. He had great things to say. He had heard good things about him. After he taught the crowd, Jesus talks this guy Simon into going out and dropping his net again. Jesus wants to go fishing, and Simon, who's still tired but still very respectful, he obliges Jesus, and they go out and they throw their nets over, and nothing happens. And Jesus does something weird. He says, "Hey, throw your nets over the other side of the boat." And Simon goes, "We've been out fishing all night." And I wonder, if you've ever been fishing at all, and you go fishing and people always have like really, really cool advice for you that you're going to use and you're going to catch a lot of fish. Simon hears this advice and he's like, I've been fishing all night. I don't think throwing the nets on the other side of the boat is going to make a difference. But because you asked me to, I'll do it. So he does. And the nets are full. And something hits Simon. He sees something that apparently he was missing. Something inside him felt a little bit of brokenness, maybe shame. And Simon makes a recognition. And here's what happens. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, because I'm a sinful man." So here's this failure that's happened to Simon all night. And it had nothing to do with him, but seeing Jesus had success touched something broken inside of Peter. And Peter says, "Go away from me. I'm a sinful man." Knowing that Jesus is this really good man, this is where Peter's at. But Jesus has an odd way of responding. This is what he says. He said, "Don't be afraid," Jesus told Simon. "From now on, you'll be catching people." In this moment where Peter feels ultimate failure, Jesus steps in to just change his identity. "Simon, you're no longer a fisherman. You're going to be a fisher of people. God redefined this failure into this success and renames Simon to Peter, which means rock. So the rock was this guy. All apologies to Dwayne Johnson. Peter follows Jesus because he said he would make him a fisherman. Peter wants to see what all Jesus can do, and he sees Jesus do amazing things, feeding thousands. He raises a little girl from the dead. Peter sees Jesus walk on water, and because Peter wanted to be a good follower and believed that if he followed Jesus, he could do whatever Jesus could do, he asked Jesus to call him out on the water, and he would walk on it. And Jesus does, and Peter does, and then he sinks. But Jesus picks him up, and they go back to the boat. I'm not sure how they get back. Do they walk? But they do, and they continue this relationship. Peter hears God speak to him and say, "This is my son." Peter, he loves Jesus. But on the night before Jesus is crucified, before Jesus completes his mission, Jesus takes this ceremony called the Passover, and he demonstrates who he is. And this bread is his body. It will be broken for them. And this cup is his blood, which will be poured out for them. And I don't think Peter's liking this story too much at all. But they leave this moment of communion together, and they walk to a garden. And while they're walking, Jesus says something even more disturbing for Peter. This is what happens. Then Jesus said to them, "You will all fall away because of me this night. You will all fall away. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered." Peter, he doesn't want to hear anything like this. This is not his style. He is gun-ho. He is, and my wife accuses me of this, so this is how I think Peter is. Peter is a bull in the china shop, God bless him, and he answered Jesus. Peter answered him, though they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away. Isn't that cool? So Peter's saying, all these other guys are following you? No, I will never fall away, because that's who I am. I am the bull in the china shop. And even if they come to kill you, Jesus, I'll die right beside you. That's what he says. Here's what Jesus says. Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter, I hear you. I understand you're passionate. I understand you really mean well. But before the sun comes up, when the rooster crows to announce the morning, before that happens, you'll deny you even know me 3 times. We don't really see in the scripture how Peter reacted to this, but I think he is baffled because he has seen too much. He's been through too much. Why in the world would he ever think that he would betray someone he loved and believed in so much? But listen, they get to the garden. The men are there. Peter can't even stay up to pray. And then soldiers come and they arrest Jesus. And when they do, sure enough, all the followers scatter. They just scatter. Peter, who also scattered, finds a way to kind of sneak around to see what's going on. And they take Jesus to a priest's house where they can interrogate him and find him guilty. And Peter kind of hangs back to watch what's going on. And he finds himself in a location beside a fire where he can see what's going on inside the courtyard of the priest. And he's watching. And then someone beside the fire who's warming himself, a little girl says, "Hey, aren't you one of his followers?" "No, I'm not. I'm not." And then a man, "Hey, no, wait, I think I saw you with him." "No, I don't know him." Wait a minute. You even have a dialect like those guys from up in the Galilee area. You've got to be one of his followers. "No, I don't know the man. I don't know what you're talking about." And then he heard a rooster crow in the middle of the night. And if that's not enough, while he's at the fire, he looks up to see Jesus. And the Lord turned and looked at Peter. And Peter remembered the saying of the Lord, and how he said to him, "Before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times." 3 times. At that moment, what did Peter feel? At that moment, the powerful, rambunctious bull in the china shop, he's become a scaredy cat. At that moment, he has doubt, he has fear, and he is in pain because he has hurt his best friend. And to see the look on Jesus' face, it was too much. And he just goes away weeping. And you know what happens? Jesus is convicted of some kind of crime that wasn't really legitimate, and then he is convicted of sedition, which he didn't really do, and he is sentenced to death. Even the people that sentenced to death knew he didn't deserve it, and yet he's sentenced to death, and Jesus dies. He died, and it should have been over. But on day 1, Jesus dies. And on day 2, the hope is gone. And then on day 3, the tomb is empty because Jesus defeats death. Jesus, in his great love, he crushes death and conquers it to point a way towards life. And Peter and the disciples, all the guys who follow him, they see Jesus alive. They have lunch with him. They touch him to make sure it's really him and that he's there. And here's the truth. They don't just strike out going, Jesus is alive. Actually, they're really kind of confused. And what happens? Peter, the rock, turns back into Simon, the fisherman, and he goes fishing. He and some of his followers, some of the other followers of Jesus, some of his actual relatives who were following Jesus, they go back to fishing. Fishing for fish. That's what they do. They fish all night one night. And while they're still in the boat, the sun's coming up, they hear somebody cry out from shore, "Hey, throw your nets on the other side of the boat." What's that all about? I don't know. Well, let's just do it. Let's just throw, what could it hurt? We're almost done. And they throw their nets on the other side of the boat, and all of a sudden the nets are full. And that's when it dawns on them, wait a minute. We've been here before. That guy on the shore, it's Jesus. Simon can't wait to row in. He jumps out of the boat and swims to shore. The other guys, they get the boats to shore. I don't know how they get the fish up. That's not important. The fact is, they've got to get to Jesus, who, when they get there, he's cooking breakfast. Wouldn't that be sweet? These guys have been all night, and Jesus cooked breakfast. Why? What is that about? You've conquered death. Why would you cook breakfast for these guys? Why would you go out of your way to do that? Because the God of all creation loves you so much. He'll come to you to restore you. So, when they had eaten breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" Now, that's a pretty good question, right? Remember how you said, Simon, that these guys may fail, but I never will? Well, let me ask you a question, John. Do you love me more than these? And the word love in Greek that Jesus uses is this word agape, which means this high, divine, selfless, willing, loyal love. Simon, do you really love me? Do you love me? And Simon says, "Yes, Lord." And he said to him, "You know that I love you." But when he says that, he says it like this. He says, "I phileo you." And so this word phileo, or philia, is the same word that you hear in Philadelphia. It is a brotherly love. It is a tender love. It is our souls are knit together love. So he says, so it's like Jesus says, "Simon, do you love me? Do you love me?" And Peter says, "I love you. I love you." Jesus says, "Feed my lambs," he told him. And then he asked him again, "Simon, do you love me?" with the agape word. And Peter says, "Yes, Lord. I love you. I phileo, I tenderly, brotherly love you deeply." "Shepherd my flock, Peter." be a shepherd. And then he asked him a third time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? And this time Jesus says, Simon, do you tenderly, deeply love me like a brother, like our souls are knit together? And Peter was grieved that he asked him the third time, do you tenderly love me? Do you really love me, Peter? And Peter said, Lord, you know everything, and you know that I love you. And Jesus says, feed my sheep. Take care of the people. It's interesting in this moment how Peter has gone from the rock to the fisherman. And he's out in a boat and he's away from what God has called him to do. And even on that lake, he couldn't get away from God's love. You can't hide from God's love. And God restores Simon the fisherman back to Peter the rock. How do we surrender our failure to God? What is the one thing you need to get out of this message? Because all of us have deep failure. Maybe our marriage has failed. Maybe our relationship with our parents have failed. Maybe we failed at college endeavors. Maybe we're behind in our job and we're losing our job, and maybe we've lost someone or something that we really thought told us who we were. How do we surrender that failure to God? And it comes down to this question, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me with all of your mind? Can you wrap your mind around the truth that I lived and died and rose and lives and reigns, Jesus says? Can you love the Lord your God with all of your mind? Can you say, I'm trusting you. I'm in. Can you love the Lord your God? Can you love with all your heart? Do you love with all of your heart? Do you love me with your whole heart? And that's hard, because it means we have to say no to us and yes to him. We have to say, you are the center of everything. It's another big trust. I'm trusting that you are who you say you are, and that you will do what you say you will do. And I can't restore myself without you. I'm in, and I'm going to give my heart to you. I'm going to learn to love you, to find my soul knit to yours. Do you love me? Do you love me with all of your actions? Can you take in God's love and then give it out to others? Knowing you don't have to be a doormat, but as God pours his love into you, you can pour that love and grace out to others. That's what God is telling Peter, feed my sheep. And for all of us who follow Jesus, in one way or another, we can do that. We can pour out his love that comes to us and give it away and never lose our identity. Because God is bigger than our failure, and he defines our identity. So John, the man who records this incident about Peter, he understands this idea about identity and who we are when we follow him, when we love him, when we give our hearts to him. And so in doing this, there's an obedience of following Jesus that we should take in. And here's what John says. Now this is his command, that we believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and love one another as he has commanded us. The same restoration that God gives to Peter, he gives to anyone who can love him with all their heart, with all their mind, with all their actions and strength. Surrender your failures to Jesus. Your broken marriage, your broken relationship with your mom or dad. Surrender your failures to Jesus. You're dropping out of college, you're losing your job. Surrender your failures to Jesus. Maybe you've broken the law. Maybe you're struggling with an addiction and you feel like you can't win. Surrender your failures to Jesus, because listen to me, God is bigger than our failures. And he reaches into our lives and brings hope for tomorrow. He brings healing into our lives now and can make us whole. And only he can make us whole. Listen, as we think about this next worship song, as we bring this series to a close, what failures do you need to surrender to Jesus? What is the brokenness that, and maybe there's a brokenness, maybe there's a failure you've been hiding all along, and now you bring it to Jesus. And when you bring it, you're going to have to answer this question. How do you respond to Jesus as he asks, do you love me? Think about these things as we worship together.
Speak to me when the silence steals my voice. You understand me. You understand me. Come to me in the valley of unknowns. You understand me. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. So I threw all my cares before you, my You're bigger than we thought you were.
It's hard to describe my own life and seeing crucial failures become places where God shows up. I can think of several. I can think of how I did poorly in my marriage, and then surrendering it to God, He showed up, and He started with healing me, and then in that process, our marriage became healed. It happened when I didn't do so well as a dad, and I've got to tell you the truth, the process of healing has been an ongoing experience. I think if I was going to surrender something to God, it might be the relationship I have with my own biological father. Truth. I need God in that moment to be real with me, to guide me. So I pray for you like I'd want you to pray for me. Because as we confess our brokenness to each other and pray for each other, the prayers that we have are powerful. Not because we are righteous, but because the one whom we put our trust in, the one whom we love, He is righteous, Jesus. If you haven't trusted Jesus, if you're listening today and this is all new to you, I want you to hear me say this, that God is here in this moment with you to help you have restoration, hope, healing, and wholeness that only He can bring. I want to pray. Maybe you'll join me in this prayer, because this is what it would sound like when you surrender everything to Jesus. It sounds like this. God, I'm here at the bottom of this failure. I'm here at the bottom of a lot of failures, and I can't get out. And I feel like I can't go on. And I got nothing but surrender. So if I'm going to do it today, I surrender to you. I believe Jesus did live, and He died on the cross, but He rose from the grave, and I'm banking everything on Him. Because I can't do it on my own, so I need you. I'm committing my heart to follow you. Jesus will be the Lord of my life, the King of my destiny, the one who I'm going to follow as He's in charge. And I'm trusting you, God, that as you pour out your Spirit in me, that I will be healed. I'll be made whole. And while it may all not happen at once, I know that you will show up. And I don't even know why you will. But I'm trusting in your love, God. Come into my heart right now. And I give my heart to you. And I pray this in the name of the one who died for me, whose love is great, who asks me if I love Him. I pray in the name of Jesus. Amen. If you prayed that prayer, if you're committing your life to Jesus, and this is the first day you've done that, hey, would you share that with us? We want to pray with you. We want to give you some basic next steps you can follow. So tell us by way of the journey card, which there's a couple of links you can do that, the online journey card. And then listen to me. If you're thinking about what it means to be baptized, or if you're thinking about what it means to dedicate your child, what that means for you and your child, hey, would you let us know by way of the journey card? Because we're interested in this crazy time, not letting the times define us, but instead letting God define us. And finally, listen, if you're a believer and you're following the Journey Church, if you're part of our community and you want to be a part of our community, let me invite you to worship through the giving of tithes and offerings, because we are here and sold out to the mission and the purpose that God has given us. The mission is that we want to go into the world, building relationships to share the truth and power of this good news, this gospel that Jesus has lived. He's died, but He's risen. He lives now, and He reigns with God as God. And we do it because we know God brings hope and healing and wholeness. If you're in that with us, join us in worship. Listen, until next week, friends, I'm praying that God will bless you so that you might be a blessing to others. And remember, your failures don't define you. God defines you. And knowing that truth, go into this world and tell people about what He's done. Because, church, we are not supposed to sit around and wait. We don't come to a thing and sit and soak this up. We take this and we go out because we are sent. Church, you are sent.